Okay, so thanks for coming. Welcome to How to Conduct Synchronous Learning. I'm Ann Quinn from ITT. And so I help faculty with blended and online courses. And so today we're going to talk about synchronous learning. So I've already asked you to write your name in, but I didn't ask for your department. So go ahead and put your department in chat as well. Type that in. Sounds like there's a war behind you, Susan.
A war?
Yeah, some banging.
Yeah, there's event services is here. I am.
So let's see. Deborah's from School of Nursing, and Deborah, where you? Susan is from the school. Okay, good. Good representation. And then this is just a fun activity. I want to make sure you just use some of the tools. I think you are both here in town, but just for fun, I'd like you to take your cursor and go up to the green. Do you see the little green bar at the top? It says sharing and screen. And then look for where it says annotate. You're going to get a drop-down menu. It might say more features and then choose annotate. Do you see that?
Where?
Take your
fun map of Southern California.
Okay, take your mouse, go up to the top. Do you see a little green horizontal bar? It says sharing and screen or something like that. Go to the right of it.
View options.
There you go. Click on that and choose annotate.
Where are you looking?
It's at the top of the screen.
What did you do to get there?
Oh, hello. And we have Marari. Is that how you say your name?
Yes, thank you.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you? What department are you in?
I'm in the TESOL
Okay, good.
program.
Okay, so we got some more people here, Marari. Okay. So we're just annotating where we are on the map. Move your cursor up to near the green square. Choose more options, then choose annotate and draw. And I'm going to draw that I'm here in the San Gabriel Valley. Do you see my little blue pencil? Okay. If you can, go ahead and do the same. Make a little mark of where you're located.
I'm in Connecticut.
Can you find? Oh, you're in Connecticut. So just draw an arrow. Here, you're over here somewhere. I wasn't sure if I should use a state map. I thought.
There you go.
There you are over there.
Okay, so what do I need to do?
Okay, Sue, do you see the annotation tools?
I am right here. This is Marari, maybe. I'm in Santa Ana.
Aha, you're down there. Okay, good. Thank you. I see you, a little star. And I see another scribble. Okay, good. So that's and I want to just kind of introduce you to some of the features that these tools have. We're in Zoom today. This is a new tool that we just started using.
When I used it last semester with my, because I'm teaching an online class and I had international students, but I didn't know that you could do annotate. I knew you could share, but I hadn't seen this before. So
so I want to make sure you know some of the features that we have. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to try to do a poll. And so you should see a poll. This is about your experience with synchronous sessions. So I'm going to launch it. Let me know if you see it. Do you see a poll on your screen? Synchronous learning. Go ahead and answer. You could answer as many as you want. It's not one choice, it's multiple.
I just see a gray box.
You just see the gray box? Okay. I'm not sure why. I have seen that as well. What about the rest of you? Seeing polling?
I see the quick poll.
Okay. So Marari, I'm going to ask you to use chat about just kind of chat in there of some of your experience with synchronous sessions.
Okay.
Have you led any? Have you been on them? You said that you've done some. So what about, Deborah, are you able to see the poll? Good. I see some people using it. Okay. So a lot of people have done participation. Some have led webinars. Good. I've been a student and you have led some. Good. Okay, good. So this is another feature that Zoom has, is we can do polling. So that's a very nice feature. Here's the results. For those of you who could see it. So a lot of participation, and some people have been able to lead them. Okay. All right, let's move on. Now what I have to do is I have to erase your annotations. Do you see they stayed here? So I got to get rid of them. It's kind of funny. There we go. All right.
Nice.
So we're going to do a raffle. This is a book that I was co-author on with a woman named Ruth Clark. So I work for ITT. I've been here for a couple years, but before that I spent most of my career doing e-learning, especially for small consulting firms that served like Fortune 100 companies. And I worked for Ruth. We did consulting and seminars, and we co-wrote this together. And so some of our content today is from this book, and some is from my experience, our experiences here at ITT. So I wanted to raffle, and we'll mail it to you. So we want to make sure we have your mailing address. It has a CD as well. So what I'd like you to do is think of a number between 1 and 50 and type it in chat. And I'm gonna have a number in mind. I'm gonna write it down, and then we'll see how close you get. A number between 1 and 50. Please type it in chat. Everyone can do this. What about Sue? Can you think of a number between?
Just put in. Here we go.
Make sure you hit send.
Thank you.
24. We have everybody?
Great.
We were all in our 20s.
I know. I wish I was in my 20s.
I wouldn't want to go back.
Yeah.
The winner is Sue. The winner is Sue. The number was 37. So Sue, you're the winner.
Thank you.
We did the session yesterday, and we also had a raffle. So all right, so we'll send that to you.
Thank you.
Carrie will make sure that in our office will make sure she has your address. Okay, here's our agenda. We have a lot of topics to cover in 1 hour. When to use virtual classroom, social presence, focusing attention, interactions, introductions, handouts, preparing for a session. Okay, let's start with, I always like to start with kind of examining these different tools and different modalities and when to use the different ones.
Oh, this is what I want.
So, and I might ask you guys to go ahead and mute until you want to talk, because some of you do have background noise, and we are recording. So please mute if you can find the mute. It's a little microphone icon. Thank you. So why would we use the virtual classroom? Well, it's visual. The third bullet talks about social presence, and this is something that we're going to talk about. The number one thing really is the geographic dispersion. I think that's the main driver. People are spread out. We can also encourage collaboration. You can actually make these tools available to your students or Google Hangouts and show them how to use it, encourage them to use it for their group projects. The one that says exposure to expertise, and I'm going to annotate. No, I'm not annotating. Can you see my little, there, I'm going to do that. The thing is, I have to clear it. I'm going to use what they call a spotlight. I think I am. There we go. Do you see a little red flashy thing?
Yes.
Okay, good. So that in Zoom is called a spotlight. So I can highlight. So if you have somebody that you want to bring into your classroom, they can use these tools. Somebody that's in Connecticut, for example, and you want them to speak in your class, you can use these kind of tools. This says unstable content. So you can do virtual sessions either kind of high end or more low end. So here today, I've prepared a presentation for you. I've prepared interactions. So that's going to be a little on the higher end versus if you just go into Google Hangout and have a meeting, that's a little bit on the lower end. And it's all good, but these are all options for you. As somebody said, oh, I didn't know they had annotation. So now you might be starting to think, how can I use annotation? So what can be done more effectively in asynchronous formats? Basically, things that require reflection. Oops, I got to make sure I don't click it. So if I click it, it goes to the next screen. So reflection. So a major assignment you want students to be able to do on their own. We have some things here, drill and practice, simulations. If you have this kind of thing, if you have some kind of tools that they can work on their own. For those of you using Sakai, the Sakai Quizzes tool is a really nice asynchronous tool that you can use. You can let students maybe take things multiple times, see how they do. Of course, I'm going to go down here. Readings and so forth are excellent for asynchronous. So asynchronous means we're not together at the same time. So we are now having a synchronous experience. The same time, although we're not in the same place. So the traditional classroom is good for, says here, work that benefits from social presence. So things where you want people to get together, form relationships, learn from each other, this kind of thing. You may have equipment. For example, we've, nursing and physical therapy sometimes have equipment. You can do demonstrations, though, of course, in the virtual space, possibly. So as long as it's not a hands-on thing, you might be able to still show demonstrations in the virtual space. So do consider that. That's a really good use of streaming video. Here's an example of how to maybe combine some of these asynchronous and synchronous. So this is on how to learn about interviewing, writing the questions and conducting the interview. So in the VC, a virtual classroom, we might go over some of these more conceptual things. In your pre-reading, you might go over some of these conceptual things. And then face-to-face, you actually practice with other people. So I bring this up because I want you to consider, imagine you have this whole universe of content. Where do I parse out? Where do I put the content if I want to start using some of these other technologies? And some of you may be using Sakai. Okay, I have a message from Terry. Some of you may be using Sakai, and that's another tool for you to use. The poll box is in the way, sorry about that. For this whole combination that, technology allows us now to use, and that you optimize your time with students. So let me ask you, here's a couple things that are more on the academic side. Using synchronous for virtual classes, office hours, mentoring, student collaboration, and webinars. I'd like you to type into chat how you plan to use synchronous sessions or how you might use them if you're not necessarily have a plan. Go ahead and type how you would like to use synchronous or how you think you might use it in your courses. And then I had a question about the name of the book. It's called The New Virtual Classroom. Make sure you hit send so I can receive your... Oh, thank you, Carrie. Okay, good. So Deborah says, modules on faith community. Deborah, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and talk a little bit about what you're thinking with that?
Faith community nursing in an online curriculum and established curriculum, but I feel some of the modules are better done in person. So I've been doing this with 7 or 8 weeks online and then 2 days at the retreat setting to cover things like spiritual assessment, social care, family violence, grief and loss, things that often bring up emotions for people.
Very good.
Enrollment, so I'm trying to just figure out how to do it and keep that feeling in an entirely online program.
That's really interesting, and I think a lot of times we associate the face, being together with these emotional topics. So we might say video can encourage emotion a lot more than text. So that would be interesting. I'd love to hear, because if you are talking about emotional topics, does it work in the virtual space? I don't really even have an answer for you. I think I'd love it if you email me back and that if you try it. It sounds good to me, that these things that you feel that people need some support on, do they still feel as supported in this kind of virtual space? Let's see. Pardon?
I know others offer the same curriculum in a totally online format. And
Yeah.
I feel like they lose something there. Maybe we can add some video. If they don't have a video component, they just do it in online read and respond in forums.
Okay, good. And we're going to talk about, using video to help your students get to know you. I mean, this is a form of video. It's right. It's streaming synchronous video. Are you on campus, Deborah?
No, I'm in Connecticut.
Oh, you're in Connecticut. Okay. So another thing you can do is to obviously record yourself and have that be that asynchronous video.
I've done a little of that.
Okay, good, good. Let's see. Mari says, I'm teaching an online class. Face-to-face has kept your students from sharing. See, that's very interesting. So I have a couple of thoughts based on what you said. One is that we have a new modality at APU, which is online-synchronous. So the default is online asynchronous. So if you use Sakai, you know that you're not there when your students are there. You post something, they post something, you grade it, you put it back, blah, blah. It's asynchronous. So we have a new modality, and you can, work with the curriculum committees and modify your class and turn it to asynchronous. If you just have, to synchronous, if you have an asynchronous course, the students have the assumption that they do not have to meet synchronously. So if you have an asynchronous course and you want to add synchronous sessions, I would recommend that you maybe offer it twice to kind of catch everyone's times that works for them if you need to, or you could have it be optional. For example, say you want to do a Q&A, or you want to give them to do something either in forum, in text format, or you give them a second choice that you want to do it synchronously. The other thing you talked about, Marari, is the concept of being more shy in the face-to-face. And this is like my badge in life, in education, because I was an introvert. I am an introvert. And I always felt that the extroverts got somehow extra credit in school, that if I could do all the same work, but I didn't talk a lot in class, I was somehow penalized. And so I've always been happy with the concept of online. And a lot of people think, oh, it's impersonal and all this kind of stuff. But I think you can actually draw people out more. And there are some studies that say that. And one thing that's nice about this platform is we do have techniques to encourage everyone to participate and require everyone to participate. For example, we had the chat. We want everyone to participate. Okay, the audio takes more time, and usually I may just call on one person or ask you to volunteer. And that's more, imagine that's more similar to a live classroom, but you do your annotation, writing on the board, or your chat, or your polling, everyone's participating. It's a little more democratic, and it offers actually more opportunities for students to interact. Okay, good. And recording the session for those who can't attend. Good. And this tool does record, and Google Hangouts does not record, so be aware of that. Okay, good. Thank you. So this concept of social presence, that's what was in one of the earlier slides. So this slide right here, so we started this blended program for people who want to offer blended courses. That's another modality too. So we have synchronous online, asynchronous online, and blended, which means you are assigned a classroom, there's a scheduled classroom, and you also have online activities. And we actually did a research study. So when I joined this group, we did a study, and there was a really nice meta-analysis that said, if you have these elements will contribute to blended. And so I want to focus on this one, social presence, because I do think that seeing the professor and allowing interaction time can improve this concept of social presence. So here's a definition. I'll let you read it. So it's kind of that we really believe there's someone else there. And for those of you that have blended classrooms, It's that we have more time with you. You know, we feel like we get to know you, and maybe we have these synchronous sessions in between the live sessions, and we see your face, we see you closer. Maybe we just feel like you're a real person. And it also has to do with the students getting to know each other. So here's another comment about it. This one I like. I'm going to focus on this second paragraph. A sense of belonging can make students feel safe enough to respond to questions even when they're unsure of the answer. How does that sound? Does that resonate? You can use chat. Do you ever feel like students don't want to look bad? Any comments on that? Fits well with the growth mindset. Ooh, Terry, we have a growth mindset person. Thank you. That's wonderful. Yeah. So that taking a risk. So it's a risk to speak up. Now in virtual classroom, we require that everyone speak up. And so we have that accountability. And what happens is when you chat, we see your name. And so you better pay attention because you don't want to look like you're not paying attention. So if I ask people, well, how would you summarize the last 5 screens or whatever? We are holding them accountable. Now there are some tools that are anonymous, and I'll show you what those are. Some are anonymous and some are not. So here's some, and this is a big kind of dump, but it's a few things that can help you encourage social presence. Basically, learning students' names, encouraging them to learn each other's names, posting introductions, office hours, study groups. And this one, can you see the first line? And I'll ask Terry especially, she's helping me out today. I just want to make sure, because I have a toolbar on mine that's over it. I want to make sure it's not over yours. Okay. So you can have a forum that's called the study lounge or the water cooler. Well, students can ask questions of each other. This second one here is about just having more friendly language, setting behavioral expectations, controlling conflict, allowing for group work, participating in their events, and a welcome video. I found that to be very helpful. And those of you who are on campus, we have a really cool new facility in Marshburn Library. It's a video recording studio that you do yourself, and it's hard to believe, but it's very easy to use. It's literally, you push a few buttons, the camera's mounted on the wall, and the lights are there, everything's ready to go. It makes it on a little file, computer file. If anyone's interested in that, please follow up with me. And by the way, I have an unusual spelling, so this is my email. So if anyone wants help, and I'm going to give you Terry's email. Some of you may have met Terry. Was it Terry? T.A. Raleigh? I'm going to mess it up. I hope I did that right, Terry. So she and I support faculty. So if you need any help with these tools in the future or want to use the video studio, please let me know. All right, here's my last screen on social presence. So your announcements are a great tool in Sakai, using students' name. This one I like a lot, an online gallery of student accomplishments so they can get to know each other, see each other's work. You can do this in forums in Sakai. So if you have assignments, you can ask students to post it in assignments and also post it in a forum and ask students to look at maybe one other person's assignment. Audio feedback on assignments. You can do that with, we have a tool that we can show you how to use. It's free. It's called Jing, and it lets you scroll through a document and add audio. Blogging assignments, the last one is using synchronous tools. So I'd like you to use chat and tell me, what are the ways that you support social presence, or we might call it relationship building between you and your students and among your students, or things you'd like to try. Can you please type in chat? How do you support social presence? Okay, Marari says, I like to collect resources, students that is outside the class content. Create a resource page. Oh, very good. Okay. Outside the class. What tool do you use for that? Are you doing that currently? Do you do like a Facebook page, a LinkedIn page? During forum, I add it. Do you use, and then Sue, I'm sorry. So Marari, let me know what tool you use. Sue says, you can talk. That's fine too.
What I meant was that, like, as students are writing different information and they're citing different sources that are not within the class content, then I just create like a reference page for the entire class that is continually growing until the end of the semester.
Is that in Google Docs?
I am not using that yet.
Okay.
I just kind of go into a Word document and just, copy and paste the citations and stuff.
That's great. That's great. So they've kind of co-created this resource.
Mm-hmm.
And Terry's also made a note here. Google Doc is great for that. And if you haven't used Google Docs, I really encourage you to do that. They're very friendly for collaboration. Things like that, of people putting things in there, especially for those of you that are totally online. This is a great tool. And again, anything we talk about, you have questions, you can email us. Deborah said, I respond to all posts and forums. I have a video welcome and some personally videotaped presentations. Very good. So you can have it, if you could say, maybe I'll do one synchronous session and one welcome video. That would change your class a lot. I have done webcam videos where every week I do my announcement in the webcam, and that was for totally online classes. So it's up to you. You can just start to integrate a little bit more of yourself into these classes. Okay, thank you. So one of the problems with virtual classroom is similar to a problem we can have in lectures, which is sort of information going out, just going out from the faculty to the students. And when you're in the virtual space, there's even more of a risk because there's a very high temptation of multitasking. I have another computer, or I got my phone, I have things I might want to, or I just space out if I'm not required to interact. So just like our office, advocates having interaction, of course, in your face-to-face classes. So we need the same thing in this environment. So we don't want to forget all our good pedagogy just because we have a new technology, okay? We still need to have social presence. We still need practice, interactions, these other things that we need in the classroom. So there's a couple of techniques here for helping the student to move through the content and stay engaged when you're in this environment. I want to show you. Oh, here's a cartoon. So this student is actually taking a phone call during a class. We don't want that to happen. So these are from the book. Sequin is my sister, so she did the drawings. Okay, oops, I went back. So here's a tool that we have. So this is an annotation tool here, drawing a rectangle around. So that's a focusing attention tool. I have this little highlighter thing. Sometimes you have these little hands. So different tools have different things that you can do. So this is a case where people don't always think about how much information is being shown at one time. And they may want to show a diagram such as this, but I know I can't read it. And I have a feeling of anxiety that's so much information. So, and I do see this. I used to teach at Bellevue University, and we did a lot of presentations. The students would make stuff, and they would often put too much information on a slide. So if you take an example like this, you could start from one side, or you could say, hey, I'm going to show you the big picture, but don't worry, I'm going to move down to the blue squares, or whatever it is. Or people put too much text on a slide like I did. But at least if you use some kind of way to help organize it and help focus, that can help. Here's the little hand tool. Using these kind of diagrams is a good way to kind of collapse information. And the virtual classroom is a visual medium, so do be aware of that. You'll notice that I'm focused more on the slides versus just letting you watch me talk, and that's kind of a recommendation unless you are doing something very casual like a mentoring session or office hours or something. If you're really teaching, you're going to want to use some kind of visuals. Okay, now let's talk about interactions. And this word interaction, you can also call it practice, some kind of practice. So interaction means the student is doing something with the content. It doesn't necessarily mean kind of a human interaction like I'm talking to you or something. It means they're working with the content. They're showing mastery. They are practicing in some way. And this tool offers many different ways to do that, and I'll show you that. But first, just kind of some high-level ideas here. I'll have another comic. Oops. Okay, so your brain can only take on so much information. So when you allow people to practice, it not only keeps them engaged, but it helps them to remember. It helps them to upload to long-term memory. So I'm going to show you, and I'm going to do a poll. I'm going to show you two different screens, and I want you to vote on which interaction you think is better. Okay? This is the first one. Go ahead and just look at it. And then here's the second one. I hope you can read it. Cool. I'm going to launch the second polling question and give it a shot, and I will launch it. And which one do you think was better, the first one or the second one? Hopefully you can see that. Okay, I see one person voting. Second one. Okay, good. So let's end the polling. Share the results. So this polling is anonymous. I don't know who did what. So if you want that kind of a thing, you can use polling versus chat. The person's name is associated with it. So something to consider. So what I was trying to get at here is this one, the second one is applied. So the first one just said list the reasons. So that's more at a memorization level. So I'm really encouraging you to, even if you use these tools, you keep them at the same standard that you would for face-to-face classes. You do your case studies, your projects, students writing a paper is an applied exercise, right? So we still want to do that in the virtual classroom. Okay, I have another thing for you, and I have one other polling question. I want to make sure you can see it. So which plan is better in terms of the use of practice? The red one or the blue one? So go ahead and vote on what you think is better. And this is anonymous. I don't know who did it, what answer you give. Okay, so I'm going to end the polling. I'm going to show the results. Okay, so red won, and that's correct. So this is called dispersed practice. So you want to, if you want to use these interaction tools throughout, so just lecturing would not be recommended in virtual classroom any more than it would be in a class. You know, you wouldn't want to lecture for an hour. People can't remember. You want to give them activities. Good, thank you. That'll be our last poll for this session. Whoops. Okay. I'm going to shut it down. Okay. Okay, so this is a way of looking at the different tools that you have available to you. Open-ended and close-ended. So the close-ended tools are polling and icons. So we do have in Zoom a hand-raising function. They do not have that in Google Hangouts. There is another tool that we support called Adobe Connect that's a little bit more high-end, but it's more expensive. It's a little more complicated. And I am starting to get to know Zoom, and I think it does quite a bit. So I think we're going to be moving more toward that. It does all these things listed here. So closed-ended question means they just have kind of either yes or no or multiple choice, okay? Over here on the left, these open-ended ones are where you can chat, right? You can do open-ended answers. You can draw on the whiteboard. Audio, you can give a full, rich answer. So here's some drivers of why you might use one tool over another. So the close-ended are fast. As you learn to use the tool and you get those polling questions, I mean, it's a minute. It's very fast. So you could get through a lot of material, a lot of interaction with just polling. And that's when there are right and wrong answers a lot of the times. Although you can also do opinion, you can figure out people's misconceptions and stuff. It doesn't, so the polling, even though polling sounds like opinion, they can be knowledge questions, of course, just like we did. Now on the open-ended side, here's our friend social presence, or when there are multiple correct responses, or to promote discussion. So in your flow of the class, sometimes you want to close it down a little bit and get through it. Sometimes you want to open it up a little bit, okay? And you can do a combination and maybe start with open-ended and move to closed. Start with easier questions, move to harder questions, okay? So here's just an example of obviously a multiple choice question. Here's an example of an audio question. Raise your hand. Again, there is a hand raising tool in Zoom. This one's kind of fun. We assigned everyone a square, and they use the annotation tool. You can also type with text. There we go, type here. Okay, you can type as well as drawing. And so students can write their answers on the screen. And everyone's busy, everyone's doing something, and it'll all start to populate, and it's really fun. Okay, got my spotlight back. Oops. Okay. This is another thing in this whole discussion of types of interactions is this worked examples. So it's easy to see, I have to clear my drawing, sorry. It's easy to see the idea of a worked example in math, but really imagine any kind of demonstration. Virtual classroom can be very good for that. You show how you as an expert in your field do something. And also the other idea is that sometimes you can substitute a demonstration for a practice. Say you think, oh, I should have 5 practices. Maybe you say, well, one of them I'm going to solve for them, show how I solve it. Maybe the second one I'm going to solve half of it or do half of it and say, what would you do now? So you can kind of play with the demonstration and the practice, how the handoff between them. And here's just a summary of the whole idea of interactions, more versus fewer. You can use worked examples, distribute them, and make sure they are applied and relevant. And then the last, actually not quite the last topic, but a later topic. So if you do virtual classroom, you want them to start well, and you can have a little more polish if you do a nice introduction. Here I have a comic for you. Okay, so you can get to know your student. So the introduction can be the first few slides. So, I asked you, where are you located? What is your experience with the tool? I start to get to know you. You can start to help them learn how to use the tool. All this kind of upfront material. Make sure they can log in. You can actually have a test login one day, or just set aside the first 10 minutes, because some people may not be able to get in or may not be able to hear them, stuff like that. Here's an example of an intro screen. So she says, while you're waiting, do these things. It tells you her name and so forth. Here's a nice screen that explains how this tool is used. This is not Zoom, this is Illuminate. This is a tool that we used at the time. Give your objectives for the session. This is an activity that we did too. Where are you located, or either in the country or at APU? What is your experience level? The other thing you can play with too is the idea of using handouts either during the session or after. So they can either be writing. You can send handouts ahead of time. You can have them be part of the meeting invitation, some kind of handouts that they follow along with. Their textbook can be a handout. You could say, everybody go to page blah, 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 read the first paragraph, and now we're going to discuss it. So the whole world doesn't have to happen on this little screen. You can have other materials to help them. And that can kind of carry them then after the session. You've now provided something that will help them until the next time they see you, while they're doing their homework and so forth. So kind of think about that relationship between your connection with them, the live, what happens live, and then what they do on their own, and kind of bringing those two together. Here's just a quick example of a handout. It's kind of a little job aid of how to use Excel. And then for those of you who do recordings, be aware that recordings can really make you space out. So it's good to have something to help guide the person. So you might give them a handout. So say one thing that's nice is if you have a handout in your live session, you can ask the people that watch the recording to also fill out that handout. And that kind of keeps them engaged, and then you know that they really did the work. If you use Sakai, you could do a quick Sakai quiz, a 3-item quiz, for those of you doing the session, after the session, to go in and do the short Sakai quiz. And those of you watching the recording, do the Sakai quiz. Something to kind of hold them accountable and keep them engaged. Okay, preparing. I have another comic for you. What happens is when you do these sessions, there can be sort of a lot going on. So this is what this is trying to get at. Terry and I practiced ahead of time. So I made my PowerPoint. I planned where my interactions will be. I practiced with the tools. I practiced with Terry, making sure it works correctly. She's online right now, making sure everything's okay. So making sure, and we want to make sure everyone gets in. So there's a little bit of the burden of making sure things go well. And the time, if you're like offline or something happens, it kind of feels longer in this environment versus in the classroom, where people give you a little bit more grace. So I don't want to scare you with the next slide, but I'll set it up for you. This is something, so when we did the book, there's someone I know named Karen Hyder, and she does synchronous all the time, and she called this a storyboard. So the idea is all her planning of what she's going to do, when she does her sessions. I think this is overkill. I think you could just have, what's my topic? Do I have a demo or example? And what's the interaction? I think that'd be plenty. And you could also, if you do use PowerPoint, you can put that in the notes field. What I like to do is I do like to make slides for every interaction to kind of remind me, okay, now it's time to do the poll. Now it's time to do the audio. Okay. I have some questions. Oh, so Terry said Zoom has some short videos, show you how to use the tools. So if you would like to use Zoom, you can contact Carrie Morrison. I'll write her email. And she'll get you set up with Zoom. There's her email. So she's our office manager. She'll get you set up with Zoom, and then I can help you use it, or Terry can help you use it. The company does have tech support. I was online chatting with someone. They were very helpful. They just gave me some resources. So the idea is the preparation. And again, if you're doing this more high-end type of experience where you have the interactions, which we really do encourage. Some other tools you can use are Google Hangout, which everyone has. It's free. As soon as you set up meeting requests, it gives you a little green icon, video icon link that anyone can use, that you just click on and it works. So Hangout is good. It doesn't do as many things as Zoom though. And then again, there's Adobe Connect, which is a little bit more higher end, and it's been around a long time. And it's an Adobe product, but it is more expensive. So those are kind of the different tools that we do support in my office. I'm just going to show you in the time. We just got a few more minutes. I'm going to show you just some of the stuff we did. We did whiteboard, just a fun question beginning. You know, raise your hand to give a definition. So those are just some of the things that we did. So use of video, use of handouts. We really used a lot of things, audio, polling, and so forth. And when we taught, when I worked for Ruth Clark and I taught, we really tried to walk the walk and use a lot of those different tools. Anything else that you guys want to talk about, or any other questions? No? Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming, and let us know if you have any other questions. And I will ring off. Thank you.